The Creole people felt that there was no need for a black this and a black that, but the Anglo-black people who had just become free were just happy to be on the bus. You know what I mean?
I do.
Whereas the free people who had been free for 200 years, they was like, what do you mean I'm going to sit at the back of the bus?
Right, because I'm already free. They don't understand that concept. But let me ask you this. Before the Civil War, any of this, in the early Congo Square days that you're sharing, prior to this part of the conversation, was the native dialect French?
Yeah, most people spoke French. The Haitians spoke French.
Right.
And the people in Louisiana spoke French. So even though it was ruled by Spanish, that's why it's confusing.
Okay. So now the main dialect was French up until Reconstruction, but it was still French.
No. At New Orleans, mostly stayed French up until around 1930. They still were speaking French. Most people were still speaking French up until the early 1900s. So like 1920, 25, 27, 28, it became more. It took a long time for the Anglo-Saxon, language to take a hold in New Orleans. That's why it's still called the French Quarter.
Right.
The people spoke French and they were proud of it. They didn't want to speak English.
Right.
They held out,
As long as possible.
As long as possible. And where the blues comes in, is it's Des Dundes. You will know that Jelly Roll Morton said the first person he heard playing the blues when he was a kid, he was staying uptown, at his godmother's house, and she was a voodoo priestess. And one of the neighbors was Mamie Des Dundes.
Okay.
That's the daughter of Rudolph Des Dundes. That's the guy's name. He's like the philosopher of this stuff. And his daughter, Mamie Des Dundes, was a blues piano player born in 1879.
Okay.
And that's who Jelly Roll, as a little boy, first person he remember hearing play the blues was her.
Right, because he comes out of New Orleans.
Jelly Roll?
Yeah.
Jelly Roll is the man.
He is.
Yeah, when he told people that he said it was he that invented this music, not W.C. Handy.
I remember that.
Yeah. He said W.C. Handy is a fraud.
He sure did, and he tried to make him seem crazy.
He said W.C. Handy stole his music. And he was telling the truth.
Okay, we got to get deep.
Because New Orleans is complicated. So Jelly Roll Morton heard Des Dundes. Now, what you have to understand at this time is that the Des Dundes family was a big family. And they all, a lot of his kids were musicians. Now, he fought the good fight. He's like the W.B. Du Bois of the Creole people. And he even called out W.B. Du Bois at one time.
Good.
Because W.B. Du Bois was up here in New York talking about, Southern people were behind or they weren't educated. It wasn't this and that. And Rudolph Des Dundes called him out and wrote a letter to him and told him that he needed to get his facts straight.
Right.
And W.B. Du Bois did. He did study New Orleans and learned a lot about New Orleans later.
Okay.
But what ends up happening is people usually paint the South with one paintbrush.
Right.
And they take New Orleans and like it's not even in the South.
Right.
They treat New Orleans and the anthropologists and folklorists and stuff with the blues. They just obfuscate New Orleans altogether. New Orleans they treat New Orleans like they treated Egypt, like it's not in Africa for some reason.